So, okay, so in this video, I will cover that I couldn't do in the last lecture. So last week we had a final presentation, so I expect you guys revise based on my comments, and hopefully you can make some more progress towards the final submission. But then I also wanted to share some details and expectations that I have for the writing imposter. So I mean, like, if you already know how to write in an academic way, you can just do that. But if you're confused a little bit, you have some questions, you can watch this video. So I will just recap what the final project is. My expectation for this final project is you do climate analysis about the micro and macro climate. And second, baseline simulation, you will run daylight, thermal comfort, and energy simulation to see what the baseline is. And you will build up some design strategies based on your baseline analysis, and you will make some iterations, and you can compare the baseline and your iterations with Calibri, which is very convenient. And you will talk about what the takeaways from your project, what you've learned here. And I would call this project as information driven design, so that you get some data and make that into some form of information, and you use the information to drive your design strategy. So here is once again, the final project is has two parts. One is presentation, and it will be 15 points. I didn't grade it based on what you presented last week, but for someone who just skipped the presentation, I may have to deduct some points, because that I have been encourage you guys to make any progress and then share it with us, so that I can give you more feedback, so ultimately you can do better job for the final submission. So 15 points for the slides, and 15 points for a paper and poster. So the paper will be a written work, and it's letter size vertical 5 pages. And on Canvas, I have shared the template that you can use. And for the poster, I changed it to 11 by 17 vertical, and it's 2 pages. So I guess it's kind of common to have letter size, vertical format for your portfolio. Then we tend to put less information when the format is too small. So I made the format larger and 2 pages and vertical, so that you can use these pages as your work samples if you apply for a job and if you go to job fair, or you can use these for your portfolio. And I think 2 pages are good enough to include all the contents. And even though you're not comfortable with putting everything into 2 pages, that's also a good practice, how to make the whole process in a concise format and deliver it to the readers. So the contents will mostly have the intro and methods of your simulation and what the results are, and you will have discussions. And you need to upload those files by 11:59 p.m. on December 22nd. And of course, you are welcome to revise any presentation slides. And the final submission files will be PDFs, the slides, writing, the paper, and poster. And you will also upload the Grasshopper, and then you also need to internalize all the geometry so that like when I open your file, there shouldn't be anything missing. So I will talk about like how you write in an academic way. So this is very common structure for any field and any like type of paper. If you like think about like journal paper or like any like conference first like papers and or anything or any report, if you follow the structure, this is very like common, and it will also help you to like structure your like writing. So first, on the first page, you need to have the title, authors, abstract, and keywords. So the title, you need to make your own title based on what you've done. Maybe this is not just the like finer project's name. You can come up with a like new title that like how you want to call your project. And author, this will be you. And abstract, I recommended here like to make it like 150 words, but I think if you submit a like abstract to a conference or something, is mostly like up to like 200 or 300. But here I just wanted to make like simple. And keywords, you can just like find some words that can emphasize your work. So these should be in the like first page. And this is the main contents. So here you have introduction. You need to set the stage first. Okay, like why you're doing the information driven design based on the building simulation result. What is, so why you are doing there, and then what is the background, and you can come up with your own idea, but you're also welcome to refer some papers or some other like articles. So this is like why you're writing the paper. So you can also say, oh, this is assigned to me, so that's why, but it's more recommended you to have some more like background like contents in the introduction. And like methodology, you need to have methodology for sure. So how you're gonna like go through this project is like about methodology and the result and what came out of like your mirror methods, and discussion and conclusion. They're talking about like, so what, why this matters, and then what this means. And references, you can like add some like reference list that you have like adopted, but since this is not an academic writing like course, if you don't have any like references, like that's totally fine. But if you bring up some like references, then that will be very good practice for you. So title, author, abstract, keyword, these are the descriptive information that let readers search for an article. So, okay, this is just a like minor project, so I know why you wrote it, but if you think about that, if you like publish it or if you brought it to a conference that is in the database, then you may want to make more people to read your paper instead of like just like making sit there. So I think like some of people are really smart about like how to make the title and how to pick the keywords to make your paper more searchable to others who may have some very close like or similar interests. So that's a also very important thing. But here you can just like put whatever you think, and then that would be a good practice. And then let's talk about the introduction. So this is about why. So what is the context for this project? So why you're running the simulation? So here you may give some like what is the like meanings of the like building simulation and design? What is the relationship between them? And what is the climate you're selecting? What is the base like information for your project? So you can give general idea to the readers first, and then like how does it fit in with other research on this topic. So probably this one is not really important here, but when you're writing an academic paper, it's really important to see like what the existing papers are about. Then you will find a gap from the previous papers so that you can find your position like and say paper is really important because the other papers are delivering this and that, but there is a gap you wanna fill through this paper. So maybe it won't be too important for this final project, but if you write an academic paper, then that's very important part. And here, so like what is the research question? This can be also set as like a goal for your building simulation. So here you could say, oh, I wanna like maximize the thermal comfort hours, like while the daylight condition is like sufficient. So you can and then what kind of approaches we can take. So here you need to set your goal so that the readers can read the instruction and understand why you are doing this. And the second one is methodology. So this has like process and like measurement. So like this is how the author is gonna answer the research question. So maybe for us we could say like, we're gonna use like Rhino Grasshopper and do this kind of like the energy simulation in daylight, and we will use the Colibris to compare the like massive amount of cases. And for measurement, you can say like the daylight, what is the matrix you want to pick. So for example, for annual daylight analysis, you could pick DA, which is daylight autonomy, versus UDI, which is useful daylight illuminance. So you may want to pick one over the other and then say like why you're picking this. Or you just like state like what the metrics you are using for daylight when you're comparing the cases, or like what kind of thermal comfort model you want to use for that area. So this will be like about those. The research is like what came out of the like methods process. So like this is about like what was the answer to the question, and this is often shown in tables and figures. So this may show like how you compare the cases. So this can include the images from Design Explorer and then some output values, or you can also compare the baseline and the final like selected one. So the result will like show like what came out of your process based on the measurement you used. But here, like what you need to do is be very like objective so that here you won't put a lot of opinions of yourself. This is just a fact or just like truth that you found. Some values. Okay, this value which is like between this range and only what is the criteria for that metric, something like that. So here you won't put a lot of your own opinion. This will be just like pure fact. And later on, there are like discussions and conclusion. Here you can interpret like the result with your own word or your own like intention. So here you can say like, what is the significance of this project? And also say like, how does it fit in with like what else is known about the topic? So like how this will matter in other contexts, or like, I think here you also say like, what was the limitation of your study? So this is more about, so based on the result, you will give your interpretation and opinion. That's about the discussion and conclusion. And references are mostly like academic papers or articles on websites. And these materials are like what the author cited when writing this paper. So probably unless you go to like more academic degrees, like PhD or like MS, this won't matter so much. But if you go to any academic degrees, this is very critical thing you want to learn. And so I will talk more about the process a little bit. So this is like where you can say like what you want to share like from your simulation process. So like share what kind of analysis you did and what was the order of your analysis. So for example, this will like include climate analysis, baseline tasks, and iterations. And the measurement here, you may like want to share like which metrics or like models you used, because like depending on the thermal comfort model, the result will be very different. So for example, if this is indoor and then I want to use like PMV versus the UDI, not UDI, like PMV versus like adaptive comfort, or versus like UTCI. Oh, I'm not gonna use UTCI because UTCI is a tool for outdoor thermal comfort. So something like that. You need to find your model that you're using. And then here you may want to provide some definitions or like give some reference. And for here, I think it's fair enough if you just like rephrase what you can find from my lecture slides, but maybe in reality, you need to cite the original paper. Like maybe like Fanger published a paper about like PMV and PPD, how he developed it and what the values are. But then you may want to like cite Fanger's paper, but here I won't judge you on that. So you need to provide the definitions for each matrix or models and provide why you chose them, like why you use them, why they're more appropriate than the other metrics or models. So this is a format that you can use. I uploaded it to Canvas. So I will show like where you can find it after these slides. So this is a conference paper template that I used a few years ago. So here they have abstract. This is very brief summary about your whole paper. And introduction, this is like how you set the stage and why your study is important based on like the others previous papers. But here you won't work on that so much. And you will have main body but the methods are discussions, like result comes first and then discussions and conclusions. you may state some limitations you know, and references. And here, this is only 5-page like papers, so that you will have some charts, graphs, or graphics like within the 5 pages with the text. Then you need to be very selective in like what kind of charts or what kind of like graph you want to show here. And poster. So poster is like 2 11 by 17 pages. Here in the first page, you need to add like the title, author, abstract, keywords. So it can be just the same with the like writing paper. So you must add that, but other things are really up to you. So you're recommended to add some diagrams of your workflow and probably some graphics for climate and spatial context, something like map or anything. And you can also add some chart or graphs for baseline. And you can also add some like brief diagrams or images about your design strategies based on your analysis of the climate and baseline. And like, I think this is very important part, like how you're comparing the baseline and iterations, and how you're gonna visualize that will be very important. And that if you visualize that in an effective way, that will be like very good skill for you, like not only for this course but for the studio and later on, like when you're working on your portfolio, and even when you're working like for a company or something, this will be very like useful skill. You also need, you may also like add some chart or graphs for your selected case. So this is an example that I have on the right. This was like just a poster that Mingbo and Mimi created. So like Shini is actually Mimi. So this doesn't really follow all the formats that I asked, but here you can put some like abstract and provide the keywords and what the authors are. So and then provide like what kind of analysis you ran and what were the results and what improvement you used. This is more graphical because like this was a like design studio project, but you can do whatever you want. I believe like all the architecture students should have like very good visualization skills. You guys are like an expert like in making postures and stuff, so there is no limitation. But like since I wanted you guys to make the postures to prepare your future portfolio, you can just like stick to your portfolio like formats or anything, but just think like how you wanna visualize your work process with the limited number of pages. So then I will briefly show like what I have on my portfolio. So I'm mostly showing like portfolio pages that I have based on the MABD program's coursework. So this is not the like fast example, but this is the pages that I have out of this building performance simulation course when Mustafa taught us. So I may give some like spatial context and do a little bit of like climate analysis. Here I didn't add a lot of interpretation, but you are encouraged to add some more interpretation. And I did like layer analysis. I studied what the values are. I also added some key maps. And I believe I added some like the definitions for the value. And here, I think like at the time I ran like orientation study, like at the time, so like we didn't learn how to use Design Explorer. So I had to do it like one by one. And I believe I did some energy load study and daylight study and compared like how this window should like be oriented. And I guess I picked like this angle, and then I also compared the like how the adaptive comfort and PMV comfort can be improved by adopting natural ventilation. So orientation study, like one strategy, second, natural ventilation, and third, aerostatic shading device. So those were three large strategies that I used. And here I tried to visualize what kind of factors that are used for the input. And again, at the time, I didn't use Design Explorer. So I just like did it manually and then showed what the examples are. And probably it's not really obvious, but from here to there, the density of shading is increased. So for the second page, I showed like what is the baseline and what is the selected one with all the three strategies and how the adaptive comfort increased, like how the PMV increased and how the daylight like conditions got better or yeah, and how the I think like here since I didn't have a lot of space, I just selected some of the glare analysis, and this one couldn't be below the 0.35, but this was just like practice, I guess. So I think like I'm not gonna judge you if your DGP value is like above 0.35, but that's all, of course that's recommended. But what I'm seeing here is more about your logic and workflow. So as long as you make progress based on your judgment and your logics, I'm totally fine. Always you need to visualize things in a like proper way so that readers can understand what's going on. So that was just like little example that I have on my portfolio, 4 pages I had. And this is not from this course, but I think I briefly talked about my studio project that I did with Mingbo and Mimi. And probably here, this one has much more contents, but don't be like overwhelmed because this was like the 3 people project and this was for a whole like studio, which means like 2 credits. And I think I worked a little bit more to like visualize the diagrams and stuff. So this is a lot more work than you guys would do for this course. So, but I wanted to share like what kind of things you can do based on the building simulation and what you're gonna do in the next semester. So here, so this is the bioclimate hybrid like building design, and here like William Brahan, Brian Phillips, and Mustafa were our professors. And our team joule per square meter with me and Mingbo and Shini with like who is actually Mimi Kwan. That's her nickname. And this was like in the climate zone 2A, hot and very humid, and I gave some like brief descriptions. So this one, I think I didn't write it in a very academic way, but but this would be about the right amount of text you would have for abstract. This is, I think, like I did a little bit more graphic work afterwards. So here we showed like what the location is and what is the precipitation of that specific area, and what is the sectional elevation, because that area was like very vulnerable to flood. And we did some like analysis for temperature, relative humidity, and precipitation. And I think there's some like line missed here, but I also stated what the programs are. So that should be included in the like instruction of your paper. A little bit of like psychometric analysis and what is the spatial context that we wanted to have. And here I kind of tried to visualize what the strategies that we used. So first one, we tried to like carve the mass. And later on, we added some cores for its functions, and we kind of carved a little bit more for other reasons. And here we separated the space into residential area and office area. And later on, we also added some pool or like some water body on the roof so that we can collect the like rain and then you use it for evaporative cooling. So these are some details about that. We also had like atrium and some terrace that people can use. And later on, we realized that we have too much solar radiation heat gain. So we added another like shading device, like so that we can cut off some light. So this is about like the first self-shaded open space, like so that was our first design strategies. And this one was more about the program. So we wanted to bring the residential institute and public program of New Orleans into this vertical building. And then later on, we added some multiple post screen so that we could increase the building's performance. So I think we added like shading devices, like evaporative screen, and we added some acoustic screen, but I think I didn't include that here because for the acoustic analysis, like that was run by Mimi, and this is my individual portfolio, so I didn't add that here. So here I analyzed like what the solar radiations are and then what the sun path is, and gave some like what is the latitude and longitude. And here I think I worked a lot of hours only for this diagram. So what is the workflow? Because I think there are a lot of people who are much better in like building simulation than me, but like I think the good thing about the EBD program is like the integration between the building performance simulation and design process. So here I tried to deliver what the process is like I took. And like since the self-shaded open space was very important factor or like component of our project, we did like TCI analysis and compared it with the festival like schedule. So then we realized, oh, we want to make this summer more comfortable so that we can have more festivals like throughout a year. And let's see, I think this one I showed you like in the lecture when Mingo came. So here I learned like Design Explorer and then used and compared. And the UTCI was the criteria we used, and the deeper and wider is better here because the solar radiation is pretty high. if we shade the area, that we could increase the UTCI, so like something like that. So I just tried to give very like quick interpretation or like takeaways from the simulation result. And these are, I think we ran about like 80 something cases, but these are only like selected ones. So that I wanted to give some idea like what kind of simulations we did. And maybe I'll talk a little bit more. I know before I go, then here I try to visualize like what the parameters are, like the width one and like capital W, capital D, and what the like small d, small w, what they mean. Like the overall length and the length of the like shaded area, something like that. So here I really try to visualize what the parameters that I manipulated. And okay, let's go to the next page first. So here we did the second round for our like city balcony level. So we had a like large balcony and then ran simulation. And here we had a like vertical opening. So we also like tried to manipulate the ratio and the locations. We found, okay, this is better when this opening area is in the middle and something like that. And in the later, we also added a smart terrace and we also manipulated the depth and width and the angle. So here we picked the like 27th one out of 63 cases. So I think like I also talked about it a little bit in the lecture, but I didn't run every input parameters at once. So here we tried to do the large scaled one first and then go a little bit deeper and deeper so that actually we didn't run like hundreds of simulations. We tried to control the number of simulation, but still get the very like useful information out of the simulation. So that's something I want you guys to know, that like even though you run like 200, 300 simulations, sometimes like it's not so different from running like 30 simulation. Then what is the point running that much time of simulation? So you need to very like careful or be like smart about that. And for the facade parameters, because like we manipulated the individual residential units facade, so they are all like slightly different for every unit. But then we wanted to make some combination. We wanted to make some prototypes so that we can have some variations for each unit, but still we wanted to have very like good performance for each unit. So here we manipulated window ratio, glass types, and shading depth. So these were, so here we showed like the outdoor, we analyzed the UTCI for outdoor thermal comfort, but we also ran indoor daylight analysis given that shape of opening, so that we try to make the balance between those two vectors. And these are some like exploded floor plans, like residential area and what the like city outdoor spaces, programs. But of course, this won't be expected for you for this course, but maybe for a studio. So these are like rapid models, and this will be much more important part here. So this was the previous like thermal energy balance chart. Then after we added the shading, that we could reduce this much. So that, and then we also ran the light analysis for the residential units and compared. Then we realized, oh, we may want to give some options for the occupants so that we could make some shading devices that actually the occupants can change the like opacity. So we made a like small model, a physical model, and this is what the shading will look like. So for residential area, we will have some like brick-like shape shading devices. But for offices, we will have some evaporative cooling pipes that are going around so that the office area, like where the people would use during the day when the solar radiation is high, that evaporated cooling can be very effective. So that we apply this one here. But for residential area, like we wanted to give the occupants an opportunity to like customize, so that this is like some devices we thought about, and this is one of the floor plan. And what else? So this is like section perspective that we made. So first floor, this area is for like music festival. Also, people can go around towards the top of the building. So we wanted to bring the very festive atmosphere of New Orleans into this building. But then again, this is not what you need to do for this course. Maybe you need to do like some this part, like UTCI analysis, and do some iterations and compare and do a little bit of a climate analysis. This is something I would expect for this course. If you look at this diagram a little bit, then here I analyzed the climate and what the programs are, what the urban context is first. And then we came up with some design strategies. And like even before we run any simulation, that we did a little bit of form study, because like what we learned from the building performance simulation course is like designing some space based on the building simulation can be very boring. So first we thought like we want to do some exploration. We want to do some like fun things first and then come up with better or more interesting design strategies. And here is the simplified form. And we did outdoor comfort, and here we did UTCI, and we also did like daylight analysis. And then we looked at the indoor space and made some like terrace, and we added screen. And later on, we also like did a little bit more design studies with like small like design models, and then we came up with our final design. So I wanted to show this diagram to you. Maybe you won't have this much workflow for this course, but I hope you guys can do a little bit of diagram work, so that first, like for yourself, you want to remind like what the process you made, and like whether they are making sense, and also like by showing the diagram, you can deliver your contents more effectively. So these were some like portfolio pages. I think like I wanted to show you like what I did like out of the MABD, and so this is my house back in Korea, and actually I did the design, like schematic design, before I came to MABD. But then at the time, based on my knowledge of the time, I tried to make the building sustainable. And so luckily my father, so there's PV panel on the roof, and luckily my father is very like good at tracking numbers. So every time he tracks, like every morning he tracked like what the energy consumptions are and what is what is the energy that was like made by the PV panel. So I just like compared the data because like during the data collection time, I was like in the United States and just briefly showed what the climate is like of that area. And so this was like just an example that I wanted to show. But here, like I didn't know about building simulation when I designed this building, but still I wanted to like evaluate how I designed. So here I looked at the sun path, and here I looked at the sun ray. What is the sun ray of like June 21st, March, and December 21st? So this is the length of the surface where the solar radiation can be reached. So like in June, when the sun is really high, when the weather is pretty hot, so this is the window, and this is kind of overhang like space, so that like during the summer, solar radiation doesn't get into the indoor space, while the light can penetrate into the indoor space a lot during the winter when it's December 21st. So I think I made about the right depths of the overhang. And I did a little bit of like radiation analysis and did some glare from like the couches. And this is the view. And I just wanted to show like how the sun penetrates into the space. So this can be an example. If you have any other like design project, you can combine the building simulation skills to when you're working for your portfolio, but I'm not sure. So I just wanted to show like what kind of like things you can add to portfolio based on the like MEBD's work. And here I added my dog. We made it for our like thermal comfort, so that like during the summer, the like the solar radiation can be cut off, and my dog Shiba can have a thermal zone during the winter because we also have a like small heater there. So this is a example, and I think this is like most of the thing that I wanted to cover in the last lecture. And if you go to Canvas, so here you can find the lecture slide that I just showed. If you go to modules and go to the bottom, here is the like paper formats, and here is my writing example that I wrote and presented at a conference a few years ago based on my like MEBD studio project. So you can also like refer to that, and I will add more examples of like academic writing because like this was written in the beginning of my like PhD or like before my PhD work. So the writing is not that professional yet, I guess. So I will give more examples for your writing. If you're having difficulties in writing, you can refer to like the examples that I will provide. And this is our final like studios like slides. So again, this is not the best example, or this is not perfect. This was my master's degree work. But so here you can like follow the slides and see like what kind of like interpretations or analysis that you can do. So I just added here as an example so that like you can go through some like pages. And then the reason why we had like more than 100 pages was because like there was some limitation of pages, then we wanted to add more pages just in case like people ask questions. So we made some after thank you pages. So you can just take a look if you want. And this was not the whole like presentation. I think like only 20 to 30 pages in the beginning were the presentation page, and other pages were just backup data. So I think what I didn't cover until here is like some later like Grasshopper tutorial. I will do that when I get back home today. So that I think I will stop here, and then let me know if you have any questions that I can answer, and you're also welcome to come to any office hour. Okay, thank you, bye.